This is Unit 1 review video. Make sure you have your notebook and your guided notes. So the first thing I want you to do for Unit 1 review is to list the first 10 perfect squares. So pause the video, see if you can list the first 10 perfect squares, and then replay the video to check your answers. So here I have the first 10 perfect squares. This is the way I like to do it so I don't forget any of them. So you can see here I have numbers squared and perfect squares. So on a test you need to really be specific about which numbers are the perfect squares since we have a lot going on here. So if this was me taking the test, after I did this I would be circling the perfect squares. So these are my perfect squares, not the numbers squared. Okay, so next thing you're going to do is list the first 6 perfect cubes. So again, pause the video and then replay the video to check your answers. So again, here we have a lot going on, but this was all my work, and I'll lower it a little bit even more. All my work to find my perfect cubes because I haven't memorized them and I want to kind of check my answers. But just as last time, you know, this wouldn't be okay on a test because I haven't shown you exactly what my perfect cubes are. So here I need to circle. Oh, and see here I didn't even specify. So this one ended up being 27, 64, 125, 216. So I need to circle my perfect cubes. So these are the 6 perfect cubes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All this work isn't my perfect cubes. But as you can see, so I don't make a mistake, I have all this work shown, which is what I should see on the test too. Find the square root and cube root of each number. So for this first one, square root of 49. Now you might have this one memorized, you might not. So if you don't, an easy way to practice this is to just list some out. So I know 5 times 5 equals 25, so that's not it. 6 times 6 equals 36, that's not it. You know you need to go higher. 7 times 7 equals 49. So there we go. So the square root of 49 equals 7. Now the cube root of 64. Same thing, maybe you have this memorized, maybe you don't. But I don't have this memorized. So the first thing I need to think of, what times what times what equals 64? Or what times itself 3 times equals 64? So I'm going to guess and say that it's 3. So 3 times 3 times 3. I want to check my answer. I don't want to just say it's 3 and go with it. So 3 times 3 gives me 9. 9 times 3 equals 27. So I know that's not it. So now I'm going to try 4. So 4 times 4 times 4. 4 times 4 equals 16. 16 times 4, that's pretty hard multiplication to do, so I'm going to go to the side, try to do it. 6 times 4 is 24. 4 times 1 is 4. Add the 2 is 64. So look at that. We know the cube root of 64 is 4. Find the 2 integers each square root falls between. So for this first one, square root of 24, I want you to try to do that on your own and then replay the video to check your work. So the square root of 24, I'm trying to think of the 2 perfect squares the square root of 24 falls between. Since it's not one of our perfect squares, it's not going to come out to be a nice integer. It's going to come out as a decimal. So to find these 2 integers, we need to think of the perfect square before and after the square root of 24. So before is the square root of 16, and after is the square root of 25. These are perfect squares. We can find the 2 integers that the square root of 24 falls between. So the square root of 16 is 4, and the square root of 25 is 5. So we know the two integers, the square root of 24, is going to be between are 4 and 5. And the reason we can just work with positive numbers here is because the problem gave us the positive square root. So we can forget about the negatives because there's no negative in front of the square root. Alright, same with this next one, square root of 50. I want you to try it on your own and then check your answer. So, thinking of the square root of 50, I'm trying to think of the square root that falls before that, and square root of 49. And the perfect square that comes after that is the square root of 64. And same thing, we're working with a positive number here, so we can forget about the negative square roots. But the square root of 49 is 7, and the square root of 64 is 8. So we know the integers, the square root of 50, is going to fall between are 7 and 8. Alright, estimate the square root to the nearest tenth. So for the square root of 39, first step is we're finding the perfect squares that 39 falls between. So it falls between the square root of 36 and the square root of 49. So we know it's between the integers of 6 and 7. Next thing we're going to do is place our numbers on a number line. So this is the square root of 36, square root of 49, 6, 7, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48. Alright, so now we're placing square root of 39 on our number line. So 37, 38, 39 falls about there, square root of 39. So I'm going to take a guess and guess that we're working with 6.3. So I'm going to multiply 6.3 by 6.3, 6.3 squared, so we can see how close we get to 39. 3 times 3 is 9, 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 3 is 18, 36, 37. So for that, we get 39 and 69 hundredths. So I think that's close enough. So we get 6.3 for our answer. Now, if you weren't sure, you want to make sure, that was a good guess. Or say you went with 6.2 instead. So let's see what happens when we do 6.2 squared. $37, 4, 4, 8. So for that we get 38.44. So both are really close. So for that question I would accept either 6.2 or 6.3 would be acceptable for that. Alright, so for the square root of 90, I want you to try that on your own and then check your work with my work once you're finished. So pause the video and try it on your own. Alright, so the square root of 90, I'm going to draw a little barrier here, falls between the square root of 81 and the square root of 100, so it's going to be between the integers 9 and 10. So as you can see, I drew my number line, and the square root of 90 is pretty close to the middle of the square root of 81 and 100. So I'm going to take a guess and guess that 9.5 squared would be the closest number to the square root of 90. So as you can see, when I did 9 and 5/10 squared, the answer I got is 90 and 25 hundredths, which is really close to 90. So that's a great approximation. But just to make sure that's the best guess, we should try 9 and 4/10, just to make sure that's not closer and it's not a better guess. Alright, so it turns out when I do 9 and 4/10 squared, the answer I get is 88 and 36 hundredths. So it turns out 90 and 25 hundredths is a better guess in this case. So the best answer for this one would be 9 and 5/10. But for these problems, it's really good to do, try at least two numbers so you can really see which one is the better approximation. So make sure you try at least 2 of these for these problems. So I hope you did good for your Unit 1 review, and make sure you keep studying for your test.